Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again. We are here with Kayla White with the West Texas Food Bank. Kayla, you came at a perfect time because now we're in the summer and our meteorologist said that we have triple-digit heat. So you have great meals to cool us down. So that's awesome. Okay, so what are we making today?
We're making a couple different things today. We'll be making a fun salad that has lots of different vegetables in it, and then we're also doing a little slush that's like watermelon and kiwi and lime, just as like a way to cool off and be kind of refreshed.
Yes, I'm so excited for this. So let's pull up some of the ingredients. So first we're gonna start out with the salad. So very simple recipe. We're gonna have an avocado, 1 cup cilantro, make sure it's chopped. Make sure you have your minced garlic, half a cup of plain non-fat Greek yogurt, 1/4 cup of olive oil, and let's keep it going because I think there's more on there. There we go. We got distilled vinegar, romaine lettuce, make sure that is pre-chopped, 1 can of black beans, 1 red bell pepper, and a package of frozen corn. So about 2 cups, and make sure you thaw it out. So we have all our ingredients ready, and we're gonna get into the salad. We're gonna go over the watermelon drink ingredients later. So let's get started. What is the first thing that we should do?
Well, it's really just starting to chop first.
Okay.
So I might have you start to chop up the red bell pepper if you'd like to.
Perfect.
Here's a little knife
Thank you.
for you.
That's pretty.
And then I will get started on the dressing real quick as well.
Okay.
So I'm gonna bring my bowl a little closer to me, just so that I can reach it better. And so we have an avocado here. And so I am just gonna cut this open and scoop it out. The avocado is kind of the main portion of our dressing. So it's kind of like a creamy guacamole that we're making, a little bit of a mix of guacamole and ranch.
Gotcha.
If that's kind of one way you want to think about it. So I'm just going to scoop our avocado into the bowl real quick. And I normally make this all in one bowl. You could make the dressing separately and just add it later if you wanted to like store this salad for a little bit longer. Since we're probably going to eat it right now.
Yes.
Might as well.
And so is our entire newsroom.
Yes. Might as well do it all in one bowl.
Well, it's actually perfect timing that you came here in June because it's actually the birthday, not today, but like this month marks the 8th birthday of the My Plate chart.
Wow.
And so I know we get a couple of newer audiences and people who are just now joining us. So we did talk about My Plate before, and as we've talked about, basically, you know, back in the 90s, there was the food pyramid, but of course that was thrown out the window because My Plate was introduced. So talk about My Plate for anyone who does not know.
Yes, yeah, so My Plate is just kind of the general recommendations for kind of how we as Americans, the goal is for us to eat.
Yeah.
And so that, again, the main goal is that about half of our plate be fruits and vegetables. That's really the big kind of point that I see when I look at it that's really different from maybe how we currently eat. So about half of our plate, the goal is for it to be fruits and vegetables, a little bit more vegetables than fruits most of the time. Again, breakfast is typically, we have a little bit more fruits and vegetables at breakfast. There's always going to be some variation. We want a little bit less than 1/4 of our plate to be protein foods most of the time. And that's really like kind of the big difference between, another big difference between My Plate, the recommendations, and our actual plates most of the time.
So, and this is something that also school districts follow as well, right, with the My Plate chart?
Yes, yeah, so My Plate is kind of all over the place. It's really the 5 main food groups, which are the same as what was on the food pyramid. It's just presented in a way that's a little bit easier to understand.
Yeah.
If you think about when you're looking at like a food pyramid, sometimes it's hard to look at that and say, well, what does that mean on my plate? What does that mean when I'm actually eating these foods?
Yeah.
The plate just kind of translates that to most of the time about half of what we eat should be fruits and vegetables, about 1/4 of what we eat should be protein, about 1/4 should be grains, maybe a little bit of dairy on the side or something with calcium on the side is really the main point there.
Yeah. And I've actually been changing my diet since you got on the show, Kayla. I'm actually eating a lot of vegetables now. So,
Cool.
But the thing that I like with my salads is color. Color is like a big thing for me. So I'm glad that there's a lot of color, especially in this salad.
Yes, this one has a ton of color. It also has just a ton of like different nutrients in it, which is another thing that I think is really cool. So My Plate, they're kind of the way that they categorize vegetables is in kind of 5 different categories.
Yeah.
So there's green leafy, like our lettuce. There is starchy, like our corn. And there's beans and peas, like we're putting black beans in this salad. There's red or orange, so we're doing a red bell pepper, and we're doing some cherry tomatoes too. And then there's those other random vegetables, things like onions, that really don't fit great into any categories, but they're still a vegetable. They're still a good thing.
Yes.
So that's like our avocado, for example, here, so everything in this salad has a vegetable in it. The dressing has a vegetable in it. The actual salad is vegetables. There's just all over the place.
So Kayla teaches classes at the West Texas Food Bank. What are some common questions that people give you as far as, salads go or anything? Do you get a lot of picky eaters or?
Yes, yeah. I feel like there's a lot of picky eaters. There's a lot of times that we just don't enjoy salads. Sometimes it's just trying to find one that we do enjoy, trying to find something that, or cutting things out of it that, like, maybe let's say you really don't prefer bell pepper. Yeah. This doesn't have to have bell pepper in it. It gives it a nice crunch, but maybe that's not your preference, and that's totally fine. Maybe you like things a little bit spicier. I would probably sub some jalapeno for some of the red bell pepper in this if I was making this like at my home.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just kind of finding what works for you, because it's going to be a little bit different for every family.
Gotcha.
So I just put some Greek yogurt in here, and I'm going to mix it up with that avocado. So this is what I was talking about it being kind of like a creamy guacamole. So that's kind of what that should look like now. I'm going to actually take my fork out and start using my spatula.
And the thing about Greek yogurt, it's kind of like a blank slate.
Yes.
For the most, not the vanilla ones, but for the most part it is.
Yeah, plain Greek yogurt is really just kind of creamy. It tastes a little bit like sour cream. If you've never tried it before. So I use it as a substitute for sour cream most of the time, just because I'd rather buy one thing versus buying Greek yogurt and sour cream.
Yeah.
And then also, I find that in cooking at least, the lower fat Greek yogurt holds up a little bit better than lower fat sour cream.
Oh, really? Why is that?
I have no clue. I would guess it's because of the higher protein content, but that's just a guess. It just does typically work a little bit better in recipes.
Gotcha.
So that's why I use it.
Okay.
I'm going to add our oil and vinegar real quick. So I have olive oil here, and I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of olive oil real quick.
Yeah, as I said, I've been eating a lot of salads now, but I've been actually skipping on dressings and just kind of going for olive oil and lemon. And I actually prefer it a lot more. I don't know, it just feels lighter to me.
Yes. I love olive oil and balsamic vinegar.
Balsamic vinegar is amazing too, yes.
That's one of my favorites. Sometimes I skip the olive oil even just because I like balsamic vinegar so much.
Yeah.
Which the olive oil gives it a great amount of fat, which is a really good thing most of the time. But sometimes if I'm trying to not have to carry more items with me, I'll do just the vinegar even. This one is a good, I like teaching about this dressing because this is a good base for how you create a lot of different dressings.
Okay.
So most of the time it's just the base is oil and vinegar, some type of fat and some type of kind of sour taste.
Okay.
And so this is doing that. It's also doing kind of what you would do as the base for a ranch type. So some type of creamy. And so this is kind of a combo of both of those, which is why I like teaching this, because I can use this to talk about, hey, if you just want to do oil and vinegar, this is how you do that. If you do, if you're wanting to make more of a ranch style, Greek yogurt is a great alternative. So I teach the salad quite a bit because I like to talk about how to make different dressings that work for you.
And really, in my opinion, I think dressings change the game on everything. Because sometimes I get sick of using olive oil, lemon, salt, pepper, all that jazz. So it's kind of nice to switch things up. So let's talk a little bit about some of the general recommendations for most adults when it comes to, salads and things of that, like the greens and all that.
Yes, absolutely. So most of us, again, it's about a little less than half of our plate for our fruits and vegetables. So it's about 2 to 4 cups per day for most adults. Again, those vary. If you're a taller adult, if you might need a little bit more. If you're very active, you might need a little bit more. But those are kind of the general recommendations for most adults.
And you also have to take into account that when you're cooking, especially spinach, for example, I know that's something that I cook a lot of spinach, but it wilts when you're cooking it on heat. So then it doesn't go from, 1 cup, it goes kind of down to maybe half a cup. So
yes, that's one of the super confusing things in my plate. Most things are really logical. That's the one that's kind of confusing. Any of those green leafy vegetables, like our salads, we count 2 cups as 1 cup. Because if I were to cook that down, it would cook down so much. Right. It's just kind of hard to pack it into like a cup measure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a great example. Spinach is a really good example of that. When you cook it, it just like wilts down so much. But yeah, I'm gonna add some cilantro real quick. This recipe calls for a full cup. I've noticed that is very cilantro-y when we do that. So I typically do a little bit less than a full cup. Just, again, that's all preference. If you really love cilantro, you could do more. I normally do it closer to like half to 3/4 of a cup.
Got it.
And then this also calls for 3 cloves of garlic. I am actually going to be a little bit light on the garlic as well. I was noticing this recipe was pretty heavy on the garlic too. So
you can't have too much, Kayla, just a little bit.
This one, the first time I made it, it was maybe a little bit. So that's really it. Those are the main flavors in here. If you wanted to add some salt, you could. I don't think I normally do, but those are kind of the base flavors for this dressing.
Gotcha.
That
was easy.
Yeah, super easy, super quick. And then we'll just start adding in our actual salad ingredients.
Okay, perfect.
So we can throw in our lettuce real quick. It calls for 1 full head of romaine. That's about the equivalent of 2 little bags of salad. So I might mix this before I add any more because this is probably going to overflow. So that's, again, about equivalent to 2 little bags of salad.
Should I cut these, by the way?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that would be super helpful. I think it tends to stay a little fresher if you buy like the whole head of romaine and then just cut it yourself and like make sure it's really dry or wait to wash it until right before you're going to eat it.
Got it.
I will say it's very messy to cut. So I typically do more of like the bagged style when I'm teaching a class, just because I try not to leave a place too much of a mess.
Yeah.
Yes, so we've got that, and then we've got our black beans too. Black beans are actually a protein as well. So they're one of those kind of interesting things that counts as both a protein and a vegetable.
Oh, okay.
So this gives us a little bit of protein in our salad. We have frozen corn here too, and this is just a whole bag of frozen corn. It's about 2 cups. Here we go. You can go ahead and throw those in.
I have the kids chopping board right now, so I still have more to get to.
But yeah, no, and then the corn adds a little bit of starch or carbohydrates to this as well. Which is good because it makes it a little bit heartier. So the salad is a pretty hearty salad. You could have it on its own, and that would be great because there's protein, there's starch or carbohydrates from the corn.
Oh, that looks great. Ooh, it smells good.
Yes, yeah, it starts to smell, it's just very fresh. Yeah, so it's just really good. You could also make it into kind of a taco salad if you wanted to. Or we did like some chicken that we'd cooked in like some salsa over it when we cooked it at home before as well.
Awesome.
So we've got
Could
that.
we fit
Yes, I think we could. Been trying to kind of slowly.
Yeah.
So.
I was like, we got a lot of hungry people here. We also have a pregnant woman in our station, so we need to feed her too.
Yes, yeah. So we're. Yes.
And then what about these?
Yeah, we'll throw those in if you want to throw those in, and we'll do the grape tomatoes next as well.
Do you need to cut those or just?
I normally cut them in half. You can do it however you want to at home. I normally cut them in half just to make them a little easier to eat.
Let's cut them.
When I cook it, I am normally cooking for either children or older adults. So I normally try to cut things pretty small.
So do you work with kids now that we're kind of heading into the summer months?
Yes, yeah, we have several really fun things coming up. We are planning a Kids in the Kitchen class for the end of June, which will be at the Midland Food Bank.
Okay, so what is that?
That will be just a kind of an open to the public class. We haven't done the whole sign-ups yet or anything like that, but we're working on that. And I'm working on planning what we're going to teach and everything for that, so it should be really fun.
So basically teaching kids how to cook.
Yes,
All
teaching kids
parents,
how to cook.
Take note. Mark your calendars for that. Do you know when that's going to happen? Just go to the West Texas
Yes,
Food
go
Bank
to our website. We'll have it there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's right at the end of June, and then we're hoping to do another one at the end of July as well if we get a good turnout for that first one.
Wonderful.
So we're doing that, and then I also partner with several like kind of after school or summer programs, and so I'll teach there as well over the course of the summer. Structured a lot like kind of like a VBS or something like that if you're familiar with those where they go through rotations.
And so how does that work?
Yeah, so it's I would typically pack up to be there for the full day. And then we teach several different classes that are all the same thing. So I kind of wash dishes in between classes, and then we just teach. I think this summer we're working on planning it, but I think our theme for one of our sites is going to be different pizzas.
Okay, we were actually, my director and I were talking about how you need to come back and we should do a pizza together.
So yeah, we I'm hoping to talk about like a fun pizza sauce that has a little bit of like protein in it too.
Oh, how fun.
And then like a fruit pizza, and then one of like the most fun things I make with the kids is a watermelon pizza where you have the watermelon circle.
Those, yeah.
Those are so fun. They're so pretty and they love them.
And it's perfect for summer.
So my plan is to do that as part of that too. We'll see how they go. Last summer there was it was a lot of watermelon to carry in. So we are hoping we have some help that day, have an intern or something to help carry in the watermelon, because it's a lot.
So, I mean, for you, why is it important to educate kids, especially, as we head into the summer months, about nutrition and just kind of maintaining like a healthy diet?
Yeah, I think it can be so hard over the summer, especially just because there's a lot more snacking going on and things like that. And then especially, so at school, we're getting those meals that are typically my plate appropriate. And then over the summer, we're learning.
Yeah.
So it's important to kind of continue that trend that we're learning at school, but also just to show that eating healthy does not have to be miserable. It can be really fun. There's lots of cool vegetables that we can try. Something that I think is really fun that we can do over the summers too is just helping kids learn to kind of pick the vegetables that they eat. Maybe going through the store and finding a fun vegetable we want to try today. It doesn't have to be a super expensive vegetable or anything like that. I know that's kind of hard because a lot of the time what we pick is like dragon fruit, which is one of the more expensive ones.
Yeah.
But it can be a good way to encourage trying vegetables. If we have a little bit more choice, we're a lot more likely to try it. And then also the summer is when a lot of these are at their freshest.
Oh, great. Okay.
If you have a garden, that can be really fun for kids to see. Oh, this is how a squash grows. This is how it tastes once it's grown. That can be super fun. And I just think this is a really important kind of learning time for kids, because we're seeing our kind of parents or our trusted adults eating those foods, and so we are a little bit more likely to eat them as well.
Okay, so our salad, is that it?
That's it. Yeah,
okay,
it's ready.
Okay, so this one I'm excited for. So we are doing the fruit slush with the watermelon.
Yes, it's going to be, so this is one of my favorites to do with kids too. It's super fun. So we're just going to cut our watermelon real quick. Everybody cuts watermelons differently, I feel like. I typically cut off the top and the bottom so that I have a stable surface. And then I just cut off the edges. So
are watermelons in season right now?
They should be pretty close. If they're not quite yet, they should be pretty soon. They're a summer fruit, and they're just, I feel like they're one that I almost never hear anybody say that they don't like. So watermelons are normally my go-to if I'm wanting to do kind of a crowd pleaser. So yeah, the watermelon are really fun to grow too. It's really cool to see them grow if you like to garden, because they start out so small and they grow so quickly.
So is it easy to grow watermelon here in West Texas?
I have not tried it since I've moved here.
Okay. Like, do you guys grow it in your gardens?
So yes, yeah, we typically
wow.
do. We didn't have space this year, but at my home we typically grow it.
Nice.
But I haven't tried it since I moved to Midland.
Because I would assume, I mean, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I'm just assuming that if you were to grow watermelon, you would need some kind of moisture, but...
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to chop this, not tiny, but just small enough that it'll like work in the blender.
And so while she's doing that, let's pull up our ingredients because, I mean, it's pretty straight to the point. We have our watermelon that we're adding, also kiwi and limes, water, and ice. So really all we're doing is putting this in a food blender, which would make the process easier, or you can mash it by hand.
Yes. That might take a little while, but yes, that'll work. So, yeah, we're gonna, I might just go ahead and make this a whole thing. Normally I do about 2 cups of watermelon to about 2 kiwis. I'm just probably gonna do this whole watermelon since it was pretty small.
Yeah.
So watermelon is a great way to help with hydration though. There's a lot of fruits and vegetables that are very high in fluid. And so watermelon is one of those. They're a great way to add to the hydration. We're really not adding a ton of added sugar, and we're getting a lot of fluids from fruits and vegetables too, not just the water that we're adding. Added sugar is just the sugar that we have put into a food. So there's natural sugar in foods, like fruit, for example, has a natural sugar in it. Added sugar would be like actual sugar or honey or something like that we have put into a food. So I'm gonna just put a little bit of water in here as well, just to make it blend a little bit easier. Then we'll just start it. That watermelon should shrink down very quickly. So, yep. There we go.
Oh, it looks so good already.
Yes. I was like, it should shrink down very, very quickly once we just run it a little bit. And so this really kind of depends on who you're making it for and what they enjoy. You can add added sugar, you could not to this if you didn't want to. Since I normally cook it for kids, I normally put a little bit of added sugar in just to like kind of help with that transition.
Gotcha. These are big, by the way. These are ginormous kiwis. Look at this.
Yes, and they're actually the
yellow ones.
The yellow ones this time.
Yeah.
So,
to me, I can't taste the difference. I think they're both great. So.
Yes. So if you want to squeeze those limes into there, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
So I'm going to just start kind of scooping out our kiwi real quick.
So you kind of talked about the added sugar, and we also have a graphic for the recommendations for the American Heart Association. But let's pull up the My Plate recommendation when it comes to eating food with little or no added sugar. So.
Yes. Yeah. So we generally want to try to avoid added sugar if we're under 2. And then for us who are over 2, we want to do little or no added sugar as much as possible. And again, I get it. There's going to be birthday cakes. There's going to be things like that. But just when we can, trying to reduce that added sugar content in our diets just to make sure it's really... So the issue with added sugar is that it's providing like calories, but it's not really providing much nutrients. So there's not a lot of kind of nutrition in there. There's normally no vitamins and minerals in most products with added sugar in it. So that's just not super helpful to our diets. And there's a lot other ways that we could use our calories to really kind of benefit us. That's kind of the big idea there. A lot of our drinks are really high in added sugar. Like if I were to order a slush out, it would probably be very high in added sugar. They probably use some type of syrup rather than real fruit. This one, we're just primarily using real fruit. So that's the main sweetener. Again, depending on who I'm making it for, I might add a little bit of sugar or honey just, and depending on how tart the kiwis are, things like that. But I don't I don't always, and you don't have to add any added sugar to this if you don't want to either.
I will say I'm really bad at adding too much honey on meals that don't really need that much honey.
Yes.
But I just kind of like the taste of it.
I know, yes, no, I do too, and I get it. We're probably not going to get to 0 added sugar in our diets.
Yeah.
We do want to just, when we can, try to choose items that are going to give us some nutrition too. Like this one, if I'm using the sugar to help me eat my fruit, that's probably a beneficial way to use it.
Right.
I don't really want to like use sugar to promote intake of something that maybe is not super beneficial to me, but if I'm using it to eat more fruit, that's a great reason to have it.
As tempting as it sounds.
Yeah.
So, okay, so just to note that some of these recommendations that we're about to read, it's not that, you need to follow it, but it is out there.
Yes, yeah.
And so the American Heart Association also has another recommendation.
Yes.
It's to limit 6% of your calories a day. So for women, it's 25 grams per day, and then for men, at 36. So, I mean, does it matter in this case, as far as like this is coming from the American Heart Association, or is this for, like heart patients, people with cardiac?
Yeah, so these recommendations come from several different sources. I try to list them in a few different ways because the recommendations are just slightly different depending on kind of who you talk to. I feel like those recommendations are very easy to understand. So I normally like kind of memorize the American Heart Association recommendations just because they're a little bit easier to understand. Mm-hmm. Like you can see the grams on the nutrition label. And that can be really helpful of like, oh, this soda is 52 grams of added sugar.
Yeah.
That's probably higher than the recommendation for the whole day, so maybe I need to watch this. Things like that, that's helpful for me just like mentally when I'm looking at labels, because sometimes if I say little or no, I'm like, well, is 5 grams little or no? I don't know. So that's helpful to me. But yeah, there's just lots of different recommendations. It depends on kind of which organization you're looking at.
We have another one too, the dietary guidelines for Americans. So they recommend limiting added sugar to 10% of your calories. I don't know if we could pop that up on there. So 10% of your calories a day, so less than 50 grams a day for anyone who consumes a 2,000 calorie diet. So kind of going back to the whole like my plate thing, right?
Yes, yeah. So again, and that's the main reason they do that in percentage of calories, I think, is because added sugars are really not contributing much nutrition. We want to limit the amount of calories we're getting from those because they're not giving us much nutrition. So in order to get the nutrition we need, we want to make sure we're getting that from other sources.
Got that.
That's kind of the big idea.
My husband's so good at doing that. I just kind of eat everything.
Yes, yeah, no, I do too. I love all of it. I'm gonna blend this up as well, and then I'll add some ice too. There we go, and then I'll add a little bit of ice for us too, just to kind of make it a little bit more like a slushy. So I'm trying to kind of scoop out the parts that are melted enough to be scooped. I might kind of like, there we go. I thought that would have melted by now. It's been out for quite a while.
It's okay. It can be a nice sculpture.
So okay, that's probably about as full as I'm comfortable getting that blender.
Is that enough?
It should be. It should be a little bit kind of. Not like chunky isn't the right word, but it should be a little bit thick already because of the watermelon.
Gotcha.
Okay. There we go. Okay.
Okay, so now that this is done, we are ready to serve.
Yes, yeah, so I'll just pour us a couple glasses of this real quick. Oh man, this is heavier than normal. So.
Here, let's bring it over here so that they can see it.
Yes, and so then we'll do that as well.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure the kids all love this.
Yes. Yes, and so we didn't add any added sugar today, but you could if you wanted to, absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a great option there. And then,
I'm excited about the salad.
Yes, yeah, we can do the salad. I think, yes, I was like, I have tongs somewhere. Scoop of this, and then there we go. And then for that one, there we go, trying to give you a good variety of everything that's in there.
Yeah. So let's get a close-up of this if we can, but it's beautiful. There's a lot of color in here, which is, I think it's important to have a salad with a lot of color. So, all right.
Yeah.
Well, cheers.
Yes, this is a great one.
It's creamy.
Yes, it is. It's kind of like
Wow.
ranch, or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, it's so easy. But it's nice because you can taste the cilantro. I love cilantro,
Yes.
so.
Yes, and you could absolutely add more if you wanted to. I normally am cooking this for like a pretty big variety of people. So I normally try to be a little bit light on the spices and the seasonings and just let them add it afterwards. But yeah, you could add a little bit more garlic, a little bit more cilantro, some salt and pepper, whatever would really work for you.
Yeah. Well, let's wash this down with
Yes.
our watermelon slush.
This is my favorite
Cheers.
part. So.
Oh, that's fresh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's just like,
Ooh, you can top it with mint. Or like,
yes, you could do mint, any type of like kind of seasoning or kind of herb there that you like.
I'm thirsty. This is good.
Again, with kids, I normally do a little bit of honey or a little bit of sugar in it. The lime does make it a little bit tart.
Tart, yeah.
The
I like
kiwi
that.
is a really fun thing too. I feel like the kiwi adds a fun texture because there's those little seeds in it too.
Yeah.
And
that's
so that's fun.
awesome.
I normally try to kind of teach about that as well, of like different vegetables will have seeds in them. And so those are okay to eat most of the time, but they kind of add a fun texture.
I'm getting a lot of
Yeah.
ideas for anyone over the age of 21. I mean, I'm just saying, if you need a margarita, I mean, this is awesome though.
It is, yeah. This is a great. And a lot of fruits will work. Probably watermelon or any type of melon that's very high in water content will work the best for something like this. But you could really blend up any type of fruit into some water and ice to make a little bit of a fruit slush.
That's great. Oh, I
So-
need more of this.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, this is like probably one of my favorite recipes to make with students.
Yeah.
We'll do this, and a lot of time I'll do this and partner it with like an infused water lesson too. Of, hey, this is one way to get your fluids in. Another way to do it is just to chop up fruit and put it in your water and let it sit, and then drink the water because it'll be flavored.
Yeah, I've met people who they get so sick of water after a while.
Yes.
Which also leads me to another point. So we have let's kind of talk about like energy drinks and sodas and
Yes,
things of that
absolutely.
nature. I stopped drinking sodas my middle school year because I saw a video of soda being boiled and it was just all sugar, and I was like, I didn't know that there was that many.
Yes, yeah,
So,
there's so much sugar in there. So yeah, a lot of sodas, energy drinks, those tend to be very high in sugar. And that's just something just to be aware of, especially with that added sugar kind of recommendations. It's very easy to go over that 6% or that 10% just with one soda. And so again, that doesn't mean they're evil. That doesn't mean they're a bad food by any means. It just
Yeah.
means something to watch out for, something to be aware of, that if I drink my sugar from my soda today, maybe I'm going to have a little bit less of something else.
So what about, let's say, when there's like stevia or like the alternatives to sugar? Is that bad?
Those are something that they're approved by the FDA, so
Yeah.
they're kind of recognized as safe. There's still research coming out continually on those.
Okay.
So I always say, just the same thing with anything. If we had all lettuce in our diet, if lettuce was all we ate, we probably wouldn't be getting enough calories that way because lettuce is very low in calories. So anything in excess, even if it's a great thing, is not beneficial.
Just in moderation.
Yeah, so just moderation with those as well. But again, they're recognized as safe. Those alternative sweeteners are recognized as safe. It's just there's still research coming out, and that's true of like most things.
Yeah, like
there's
everything.
always more research coming out on everything that we
Yeah.
that we're doing right now. Nutrition is a very kind of new kind of science, a new thing that we're learning about. And so there's a lot of new research all the time, which is what makes it fun too. So.
And I think it's great because I think it brings up another point that, you know, like here in the US, we kind of have a bad habit of like eating wrong. I mean, not necessarily wrong, but just very unhealthy. So it's kind of nice to have this education pushed out there so that even kids can, you know, follow along and learn
just something to try. And I think that's why we try to really promote fruit a lot because that tastes sweet. That's a good alternative to alternative sweeteners and to sugar. To just have fruit, and then maybe a little bit of if we're struggling liking fruit, you know, sometimes that's a struggle with some kids. Adding maybe just a little bit of sugar or a little bit of honey to it, just to like get us to start to like it, and then once we've started to like it, kind of weaning off of that sugar. That's the same idea I normally have with like if you're a very big like sweet tea drinker, for example. Starting out with, you know, your normal sweet tea, and then maybe doing 3/4 of your normal sweet tea and 1/4 unsweet.
That's what I started doing, and now I can drink unsweet tea, which a lot of Texans would be disappointed, but you know. But I mean, you cut back on sugar. So.
Yes, you have to kind of wean yourself off of it sometimes because it's hard. Like if you are used to something that's very sweet and you transition to something that's unsweet, that can be hard. Like that can be something that most of us don't really enjoy doing. But if we kind of ease ourselves into it, it's a lot easier. And a lot of the time it will get to the point where what we were drinking originally tastes too sweet to us now. Because I know I'm to that point now. I still am not quite to the unsweet totally point, but if I have fully sweet tea, it tastes way too sweet to me and I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat. Well, luckily for this, I mean, this is all natural and it's really not too sweet. It tastes great. So I hope you guys get to try this because as we've been talking about, it is getting a lot hotter now and we're reaching temperatures that are triple digits in June, but you know what, it is Texas. But now you have some meals to cool you down, so I hope you guys learned something. We have this all posted on our website at newswest9.com. Also be sure to follow Kayla with the West Texas Food Bank. They're always doing a lot of cool stuff, and join us next time. We're going to be cooking another meal. So cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.